Everyone. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be talking today about mentorship and building strong professional relationships. And we're bringing to you this webinar through the Women's Forum. And the Women's Forum has been developed with the support of Gossamer Bio. So we really want to thank them for helping us make this happen. So what is the Women's Forum? It's a group that's attempting to foster relationships, leadership, mentorship, and really develop this core group of webinars to help us think about these factors that play a big role in our professional lives and our satisfaction of life and our advancements. And the two chairs of this is myself, Dr. Jean Elwing from the University of Cincinnati, and Dr. Namina Sood from University of California, Davis, and also the members that are Sonja, Carla, Belinda, Lana, Akaya, Roxana, Josana. And you'll meet many of those through this forum series. And the forum series is called PHORWARD, talking about professionalism, community, opportunity, resilience, wisdom, advancement, relationships, and development. And so with that, we're going to get started. So I'm here with Sonja, Roxana, and Khushboo, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. Sonja?
All right. I'm Sonja Bartolome. I am a professor in pulmonary and critical care medicine here at UT Southwestern in Dallas. I'm also the director of our pulmonary vascular disease program. And apropos to this, I am the lead of the internal medicine Compass mentoring program, which we serve about 1,200 faculty members with that. So we can talk a little bit more about that later. And
Yeah.
thanks for having me, Jean.
No, thank you for being here. And Roxana?
Hi, Jean, and thank you so much for having me here. It's a great honor, a great pleasure. So I'm Roxana Sulica. I'm from New York, from NYU Langone. I'm associate professor and I'm the director of the pulmonary hypertension program there. And we keep trying to train more and more people in advanced lung disease with particular focus on pulmonary hypertension. We have a program when a third year fellow, it's always attached to us. So I had ample opportunities to mentor young doctors and to be familiar with the topic.
No, thank you. I'm very interested to see both of your perspectives on this. And then we have Khushboo, who's joined us, coming from a really different perspective early in her career.
Well, again, my name is Khushboo Goel. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this panel and really to learn from Sonja and Roxana as well. I'm an assistant professor of medicine at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in my fourth year in my early career. I'm a PH specialist. I participate in team science with a focus on identifying mechanisms of how COPD pH develops. And I also clearly have a passion for mentorship in early career and how we can improve strategies for helping us develop our careers from early to mid to late career stage.
No, that is great. And I'm very interested to see how your responses complement what Sonja and Roxana are going to tell us about. So what I'm going to start with is asking each of you a series of questions, and then we're going to get together and talk about this as a group. So Sonja, I'm going to start with you. And some of these questions are kind of hard, so just bear with me. So what mentorship experiences have been most impactful to you, and how have they shaped the way you mentor other people?
Yeah, that is a really good question. I started my career certainly like many of us without any formal mentorship programs where I trained. And so a lot of my mentorship experiences were really cobbled together. And I think that's really important. Your mentor doesn't have to be one person. It can be people that mentor you in different ways and for different needs that you might have throughout your career. Um, but as far as my experiences, I think one of the best things I ever heard was in a speech by General McChrystal. You might remember him. He was that general who got in trouble for talking to that Rolling Stone reporter over in Afghanistan, was fired around 2008 or so. But after that happened to him, he actually started his own consulting business teaching businesses how to work as teams because he had to create that in Afghanistan when they were fighting, where they had all these people with different pieces of information and had to figure out how to communicate. And he's a very interesting guy and wrote some very interesting books if you're looking for a read at some point. But when they were talking to his CEO or his guy who helps him, one thing they said was throughout their career, he tried to keep an eye on three people. And after hearing this, I did the same thing. One person is someone who's younger than you, who is doing your job better than you think you did.
Mm.
Watching that person and what they're doing that you think is better. The second person is a peer who has some other things you want to emulate about the career that you have right now. And then the third person is someone who has traits that you aspire to, and trying to keep those three people in your mind and watching them and learning from them as throughout your career. And so every year when I look around, I try to come up with those three people. Here are the people I'm going to watch this year who I think are doing a better job at where I was, where I am, and where I want to be. And you can learn a lot that way. So that's one of my best experiences.
No, that is really important to always look outside and see how we can emulate someone else
Yeah.
to do what we're doing better or different. So that's great. So when you've learned about mentorship throughout your career,
Yeah.
what would you give as advice to another person to really grow as a mentor?
Yeah. I think starting early and small, I think a real formal mentorship relationship is a time-consuming one. And it is one in which you need to make sure you're partnered up correctly. We all don't get along like we didn't get along with everybody in school. And so when I'm looking at someone who maybe wants a mentorship relationship and we're deciding about that, I test it out a little bit first and say, okay, well, let's talk in the office. And then here, I'm going to give you this article to read. Let's come back in 2 weeks and let's talk about it. I would like to hear your perspective on that. Many people will never come back with that kind of assignment, and that tells you something about maybe they aren't in a place where they're ready for a real mentorship relationship. If they do come back and we can talk about perspectives, then I like to give them something to do. Hey, I have this data. Would you like to do an abstract? Would you like to do this? And let's see, can they follow through on it? If they can and they come back and that relationship is really clicking, that's when I go ahead and say, hey, I think we could do this formal mentoring relationship. Here's my expectations. What are your expectations from me? And then set up a cadence of expectations and meetings and make sure that you're really devoting the time to do that. So I would encourage you to test it out a little bit before fully committing. It'll save you a lot of time in the end to do a little time up front.
Mm, very true. And as you said, not everybody is a great pair. So what if you have too many people that are great pairs with you? How do you balance your own growth with
Yeah.
helping others grow?
So I deal with that in organizing faculty in our formal mentorship program too. I don't give anybody more than three people at a time. I think 3 people is as many as you can probably manage in a real mentorship relationship. Now, you can coach more than that. If you come to me and you have this specific problem or a contract negotiation or something, and we want to work through that, that's a different thing than a formal mentorship relationship. But I try not to do 3, more than 3. And also, when I'm matching other people up, I say, oh, this person already has enough people. I don't think they can give you time. So tell me what it is you're interested in your career. Are you interested in becoming an excellent clinician? Are you interested in advocacy? Are you interested in maybe being in administration someday? And let me see if I can find someone in or even out of your specialty that has that thing you're looking for. You try out that relationship a little while and let's see if that works.
No, very good advice. And you've been doing this a while, a lot of experience, so it really is powerful. So thank you. So now I'm going to switch gears to Roxana. I'm going to ask you about giving me some examples of mentorship that helped shape your leadership style and affected your career trajectory.
That's a great question. Thank you, Jean. By the way, Sonia, very inspiring, the story with the 3 people, that it's kind of following your trajectory from the beginning to later. Very, 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 very inspiring. And I agree with what Sonia said, that you actually pretty much learn from everyone in, different aspects, different registries. You can have more than one mentor. And when I was young, when I was a fellow, I was very, very lucky to work with physician scientists that were remarkable, outstanding, like Maria Padilla, big name in ILD, Lou DePaulo, big name in sarcoidosis, Dr. Tierstein, he was the division chief when I was a lonely fellow. It was a great time of my life. However, I have to give a big shout out to my mentor, Michael Poon. So I was a pulmonary critical care fellow. He was a cardiologist, and he had a very large program of pulmonary hypertension in New York, same institution as I was in NYU. And I went up to him and I asked him if he needs any help. Sure, we need help. So I spent my 3rd year and then an extra year of dedicated pulmonary hypertension with him. It's been exhilarating. Everything that I learned from him clinically, technically, research-wise, everything, I know I owe him. And also, the most important thing in terms of teaching you clinically, it was actually way beyond traditional mentorship. He taught me how to think. He taught me how to look for the right information. So he gave me the time and the space to actually discover who I am, discover where I want to go, and that was amazing. The idea that we all have actually a personal journey, and it's great to have guidance, but essentially you are the one that has to design and to embark in that journey, and that was amazing. He told me how to build a research program from the ground up, how to write a protocol, how to respect the integrity of data and analysis. And I remember saying that if you make a mistake, if you're not truthful in research, it's more than just you are not truthful in clinical care, because the relationship with a patient is with just that one patient. But when something is not right in research, then you technically have impact on a lot of other people. So the responsibility, it's way, it's in a completely different register. So that was actually, very important as a principle on how to do research. The other thing that, he was very strict about is, oh, fine, you go, you do your research, you learn, but then please come back to the patient that is in front of you. That's your responsibility. How do you bring everything you learn to your patient? He was amazing, a true visionary. He was using ultrasound to locate the vessel when POCUS was not even, in sight. The program pulmonary hypertension program in Mount Sinai was actually one of the first ones to incorporate routine MRI workup in patients with pulmonary hypertension. So he gave me great experience there in terms of, how to integrate a new technique in your regular work. And on human level, exactly as Sonia said, you need to click. Personality needs to match. It's a relationship. It's a human relationship. And I was very, very lucky to actually have clicked with him. I learned hard work from him. I don't know of any other person willing to put more hours than he would do. Respect for the colleagues, for the team that works with you, uh, deep empathy for the patients. The way he was kind of touchy feely, like he would hold their hand and talk at length, not only medicine, but the human and emotional implications in their life. That was amazing, and even with me, he was he was. Uh, I don't know how to say. He actually allowed me to be myself,
Mhm.
and the guidance that I had from him was a constant throughout the time. Um, I was collecting data once for a hemodynamic study. It was 2 o'clock at night. Patient with very big right heart. I could not float this one. It had dropped, and then I had to float it back, and I just couldn't. So I called him up, and he came 2 o'clock at night. He woke up, came to the hospital. He helped me. He did it right away, and no hard works, no anger,
Mhm.
just a big ironic smile on his face. He he he. You senior fellow, you still need me. He was also a little bit satisfied. So that moment captured exactly what kind of mentor was him, constant, kind, and I really remember that moment uh, like a highlight of my fellowship.
Oh, that is a wonderful story, and so amazing that you were able to cultivate that. And how did you pick him? Like, how were you so lucky to go to him? Did you just watch the environment and say, "Hey, that's somebody I would like to be like," or was it more random?
Well, it wasn't quite random and it wasn't quite a choice because he was the one and only doing pulmonary hypertension, and I was fascinated by pulmonary hypertension. So it was pure luck that I found him. It was pure luck that I found him. It was pure luck that he had the program. So his program was very, very large. We had 300 plus patients. About 50 of them were on intravenous epoprostenol. That time it was the only, I'm dating myself now, but that was the only prostacyclin, parenteral prostacyclin that we had available. And after a couple of years, actually, he moved on. He moved, in a different position at a different institution. So I kind of inherited that program, and I look at that program as the biggest and most meaningful gift that I've received in
Mhm.
my professional life. And I
Yeah.
was proud that he entrusted me with that
Yeah.
responsibility. I think I was ready, although I was a baby attending and I was very, very scared. But he gave me certainly the skills and more importantly, I think, the confidence uh,
Mhm.
to actually take on that very big challenge.
Yeah. And that trust that someone places in you is invaluable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's probably the most important confidence builder in a young professional, no matter what they do.
Mhm. So now shifting to your role as a mentor, when your mentees grow and change like you did, how do you adapt? And is there a time where you say that maybe they have to shift to a different person, or do you just change with them?
Well, I do think like any relationship evolves naturally, one way or the other. And I mean, on one side, they're always your kids, right? So you actually were there at the very beginning. You help them taking, their first steps. You're celebrating their wins. You are trying to steer them away from avoidable mistakes if you can.
Mhm.
Although sometimes it's probably okay if you let them do their own mistakes, because this is, what teaches you probably the most in life. And at the very beginning, sure, it's hand-on guidance. Like you have to build the skills that they need. You have to get them through the basics. However, at some point, they, of course, like your kids, right? They grow up, they go to college, yeah, they become more and more independent, and you are shifting from that hand-holding parent to more of a sounding board that you
Mhm.
talk to them through decisions, you encourage their independence. It's actually very rewarding the moment when you see that they are ready to spread their wings and to go on their on their personal way. Again, like I learned from Michael Poon, your career, it's your own story, it's your own development. You have to design and walk on that path on your own, and it's very, very rewarding to see when they kind of gained in independence.
Mhm.
Uh, but of course, you have to keep, open communication. You have to remain supportive. You have to, keep them with, keep a close contact as much as they need you.
Mhm. And do you think that success that your mentee has shapes your academic career?
Yes, of course, because at the end of the day, um, your mentees, the young doctors that you teach, they are actually your most important legacy.
Mhm.
So, of course, it's very important to allow them to develop, and then at the same time yourself to learn about yourself, to learn about like the three people analogy that Sonia was making.
Mhm.
You look at them as your mentee and you learn from them, then you look at your peer, and then you envision how you're going to become in the future, looking for someone that's a little bit more advanced than in your career.
Mhm.
So
So it's like a cycle, it seems. Your mentorship feeds back on your skills. You help others develop. That helps you lead. So almost it's essential for our growth to be able to help others grow. Do you think that's fair?
absolutely. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, leadership is not having, all the answers. It's also about listening, supporting the team, creating space for the others to actually do the best work that they can do, to become the best,
Mhm.
clinician, academicians, researchers that they can be.
Yes.
And I'm kind of staying the same way that I learned from Michael Puna. We are interactive, I guess. We're trying to challenge in a way each other.
Mhm.
We like, a humoristic approach to everything, and we are kind of informal. That's pretty much the tone that my relationship with my mentees I'm trying to maintain.
No, that's great. Thank you, Roxana. So I'm going to shift gears to Khushboo. I have very different questions for you because you're at early stage of your career. And I want to understand how the impact of others, like Roxana and Sonja, have had on you, and how has that shaped your early career?
Yeah, it's a really important question. And I would say it began probably with more acts of sponsorship, especially as a medical student, as a resident, which really just opened up opportunities for me and allowed me to say, oh, let me explore my budding interest in first pulmonary critical care medicine and then in pulmonary hypertension specifically. And I think that requires generosity. Um, which you don't have to provide, but it really does change someone's career and can open up an avenue for them. And I would say then that really developed into more formal mentorship, which really shaped, again, my training and then how my career currently, looks and is. I think a few experiences that really stand out to me would be during my residency at the University of Arizona, when I was in the fellowship interviewing and ranking
Mhm.
process. And not to sound dramatic, but I think it was really a learning experience where it was like sometimes mentorship is to let go, in that my mentors and my program director were so open and so like vocally encouraging and supportive of me interviewing broadly. Like they said, go out, explore, go interview at places, see what's out there, see what fits best for you. And they never, either held it against me or subconsciously had that affect their own rank list. And
Mhm.
I just realized how freeing that was for me during the process, where I felt like, okay, my people, my program, my mentors, they have my back. And that allowed me to really get out there and make an informed decision for myself about really what would be the best fit for me at this next stage of my career, even if that meant, leaving my home program,
Mhm.
which was really the foundation for me getting interested in pulm crit and pulmonary hypertension. And I cannot be more grateful to my team and my mentors at Arizona for letting me do that. Because I think I did my fellowship at the University of Colorado, and I think really that experience then has shaped how my academic career has kickstarted. And I would say in fellowship, a few experiences that stand out to me would be, some clinical mentorship that I, really received from one of my attendings at National Jewish, Dr. Mohammed Dalabi, and he basically let me go a little wild with my self-directed creation of my own mini PH track within my fellowship and during my research time, where I just showed up to his clinic and just saw patients with him. I just showed up to the cath lab and learned how to cath from him,
Uh-huh.
for 2, 3 years. And that wasn't an already established pathway for fellows. And I would say as a clinician, I think PH clicked for me in the cath lab. And really that experience with him, it shaped how I understand PH, how I think about PH, how I practice it, how I teach now to trainees. So that really stood out. And then I would say also in fellowship, because we had very dedicated research time, 50-50.
Mhm.
That was my most formalized form of mentorship, in that I had my one-on-one research mentor with Dr. Arvina Petraki. I had a co-mentor who was an earlier career faculty member in the same lab, and then I had to assemble my own research advisory committee. And I think what I took from that would be, from a research perspective, kind of what Roxana was saying, was learning how to really critically think through
Mhm.
data, like what do these numbers mean? And also this idea that research is sometimes, it's a story essentially, right? Just a positive result or a negative result. That's not all it is, right? Even negative results can still tell us a story that we learn something from.
Mhm.
And so I think that was important. And I think also just globally, this idea that it taught me how to, navigate mentorship relationships, how to like navigate ups and downs, which are very normal and natural, I think, in relationships. And that has taught me how to professionally approach, address, and resolve, challenges or conflicts. And I think it also really set me up for being interested in wanting to incorporate team science as my form of research in my academic career.
Mhm. No, that is great. And what I heard from you is how much these people let you grow, right? They trusted you, they had your back, and they let you explore what you wanted to explore. So if someone came to you and asked you how to find a mentor, what would you tell them?
I think the first thing is make sure we identify what our own mentorship needs are. Just be real with ourselves. Are we looking for research mentorship? And if so, in what capacity, right? Are we looking for mentorship to develop our clinical expertise? Mentorship for leadership, like growth into a leadership role, or just life mentorship, work-life integration. I think that's
Yes.
important. I another advice would be, especially if you are moving to a different institution, like don't forget your mentors from your training, from your prior institution. So for example, in my case, when I knew that I was going to join Cedars as faculty, actually it was Irina who said very clearly to me, so we're going to continue meeting. And I still want to be your mentor, and I will always be your mentor, and we'll just move our weekly meetings now to monthly Zoom meetings. And that meant a lot to me.
No, that was great.
There wasn't, there wasn't a shelf, life to this relationship. And I think that was important because, going to a new institution, it really was a really helpful transition to kind of have a solid kind of landing
Mhm.
kind of board. And it gave me time to like get to know my new division, get to know my new colleagues, identify new potential mentors. And I think it also came with an added benefit of now my mentor has like an outside and objective perspective. I think the dynamics can be different when you're within the same institution and your mentor
Yes.
might have, different hats within also being the division director and whatnot. So I think don't forget your prior mentor, once a mentor, mentee, always a mentor, mentee, I think. Other advice would be, when you are looking for faculty positions, this was something that was kind of a criteria for me, was that I needed to be able to identify a potential mentor. And it was as basic as me just scrolling through the website to see who are the faculty members, what do I think might click, but also making it a specific question that I would ask the division leadership during my interviews. And so, yeah, because I think that's important. Like, you're going to be going into a new home and you want to say, okay, I can really only grow and contribute to that division if I can be supported. I think things that I'm learning are that we can also, however, get mentorship outside of our division and outside of our institution. So I think that probably just requires, speaking for myself, shedding a little bit of, introvert, being introverted and being shy and just getting out there and asking for help.
And the other thing is you made time to make it happen. And I think that's something that when we are growing, that we sometimes miss because we're so busy doing our charts or seeing patients that we don't think about ourselves and our growth. So how did you make sure to dedicate that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, you have to prioritize it. It has to be important. And so I think being proactive as a mentee about scheduling standing meetings with your mentor, and don't just always leave it to your mentor to be like, they're gonna set up meetings and they should be in charge of all this. No, like you're seeking out that relationship, take ownership of that. And so I think picking a frequency of meetings and sticking to it, getting to know your mentor's administrative assistant is key because they can be your best friend and they will help you get on their schedule at a time
Yes.
they can actually meet with you. And at the same time, also prioritizing a time that works for you, because I think especially, I mean, like we are all so busy, right? And I think it's important like to have quality over quantity. And so I want to be present during that meeting. So don't bend over backwards to fit a meeting in during an ICU. Like you're just not going to get much out of it. I think other things that are important are to set agendas so that you actually have goals to accomplish that you're going to accomplish during that meeting. And personally, I like to just kind of jot down some notes either during or after the meeting. It just helps me consolidate what we talked about and have a little written record. So I think advice both, I would say initially as a mentee, but I think the same principles apply as a mentor.
No, that is great advice to make it really as impactful as possible. So now I'm going to get you guys together and I want to ask you as a group, Roxana, Sonja, and Khushboo, what has been the most or the greatest mentorship challenge you've faced so far? Did you ever have one interaction that you didn't really know how to handle or something that you weren't able to redirect? So let's start with you, Roxana.
I mean, I can think of a couple of circumstances when I don't, my performance, maybe wasn't strong enough. But in general, if you think about it, setting these meetings, right? We have a lot of competing responsibilities and, obligations, right? Like you said, doing the chart, seeing the patients, returning the phone call, talking to the referring physician, and so forth and so on. So it takes a lot of, goodwill and strong will to actually be able to set up time, for these meetings. And they do have to happen, and they do have to happen regularly, and they do have to happen with a, established frequency. I think it depends very much on the mentee that you have, and very much of their own goals. But this is one of the things that I found, most challenging, to actually be able to carve that, that time out in the schedule, and then to fit with the fellow schedule, because they're not sitting around waiting for me to be ready for, for the meeting either.
Yes.
So this is one of the most, challenging things that I find about mentorship, and maybe it's also I just said earlier that I'm a little bit spontaneous and informal as my MO is a little bit
Mhm.
informal and spontaneous. So that doesn't drive well with having a structured meeting schedule with them.
Mhm.
The other thing that I find difficult, I cannot give appropriate constructive feedback. I just cannot. I'm afraid. I actually struggle to this day. I struggle with giving constructive feedback because I truly don't know if the consequences are actually not going to, overshoot and become negative. And
Yes.
this is what I find most challenging.
Well, let's ask Sonja this question. How do you coach people to give constructive feedback in a mentorship relationship?
Yeah, I think having that relationship set up already is really important so that it's a safe space. And I
Mhm.
think when you have a real mentorship relationship like we're talking about now, that needs to be one of the ground rules up front. Is what you say in here dies in this room. I'm never going to repeat it outside of here. This is a place where we can talk openly with each other. And I think that's really important because you
Mhm.
want feedback both ways.
Yes.
I want feedback if I'm not providing my, mentees what it is that they need to grow, because I want to do that too. Um, there's old advice that you're supposed to do a feedback sandwich.
Mhm.
That doesn't help. Everybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't, you say something
You know,
nice and
it,
then you
it
tell
it
them
actually
bad, and
has
then
a negative
yeah,
impact on
it
me.
it
Yeah.
doesn't help. Yeah, it doesn't help. So really the advice is not to do the feedback sandwich anymore, but just be straight with it. And I usually frame it in the way of here's what I think your strengths are, and you're doing really well at this. And we all have things we need to work on. And when I look at how this is going, these are the things I see. What is it that you see? And have them speak back to that. Usually if you say it in an open way like that, it's going to go well. In situations where I don't think it's going to go well, which you
Mhm.
usually know that ahead of time, I usually prepare myself before that kind of a meeting. I sit down, I don't rush it from one meeting to another. I give myself 10 minutes ahead of time to sit down, calm down from whatever I've been doing. And then I always say to myself, we all came to work to do a good job. And then try to make the purpose of that meeting that that person and I are coming to a shared understanding at the end of it. We may not agree, and
Mhm.
that is not the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is a shared understanding. And if that's all I achieve at the end of it, then I consider that a success. Sometimes if it's going to be difficult, that's the best you can do.
No, that's really good advice. And it is one of the hardest things to balance support and redirection without creating a negative experience. And that's
Right.
so, so, so hard to balance. So really appreciate those conversations. So Khushboo, we talked about this is heavy stuff. We're trying to mold someone's advancement without taking the wind out of their sails. So how do you balance that emotional baggage that goes into being a mentee or a mentor?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of also did doing a little mental debrief with myself, like, after a meeting, or even if it's like a regular meeting, or if it's one of these bigger, heavier meetings, right, where things have been discussed. I think just giving myself like personal space to say, okay, I felt this way. It's okay to feel that
Mm.
way. What's a productive way to move forward? Um, I think that's important. I think like I said, in my way, like writing things down for me just personally helps to consolidate that. And I think the other thing is remembering that it's not like it's not personal. So when we talk about like feedback, right? I think that can be
Yeah.
one of the most, I think, heavy aspects that like carries a lot of emotional burden with this relationship is that um either getting, constructive feedback or having a relationship that is a little bit bumpy, or, just things aren't quite jiving quite as well, that's really heavy, I think. I think that's the part that requires the most amount of resilience. And I think ways to address that would be, one, timing of feedback. So like not waiting, right, until things have really gotten frustrating on both ends. But if you feel like something, just acknowledge it in that moment, provide the feedback in the moment. Otherwise it just kind of builds and builds and builds. So I think timing is important. Also kind of like what Sonja said, like no one I think enters a mentorship relationship to like be malignant in any way, either as a mentee
Right.
or as a mentor. So just realize that having that perspective, I think the overarching goals are probably the same. It might just be that the approach has diverged along the way. And so I think it's important to recognize when you're feeling a divergence happening, and then to like verbalize it and to say, okay, what's the best approach? And so I'd kind of say, speaking from personal experience as a mentee, I also want to acknowledge that it's how hard it is and challenging it can be, because there is invariably like a power dynamic, or there's like hierarchy that's at play. So I think, like I said, being honest with yourself, what you're feeling, having timely discussions, and just realize maybe it's just a matter of pivoting. Maybe sometimes, just in my experience, modifying the role, modifying the goal can be really, really helpful, and it can turn a relationship that maybe wasn't healthy into now a healthy and productive relationship.
Absolutely.
I
And
agree.
I think the one really important thing is to remember that we all have different personalities.
Mm.
And sometimes we express things so differently, and we really need to try to understand each other. You might have somebody who has, all of these emotions but doesn't express them at all, versus someone who is full of emotions. And mentoring those different individuals can be very different, but both people want the same from us. They want feedback. They want us to help them get to the next point in their career. So let's talk about what was really rewarding in terms of mentorship experiences you've had so far. So I'm just going to go through each one of you. I want you to tell me something you remember that was really impactful as a mentor. So I'm going to start with Khushboo.
So I will flip and just say, like, as in my budding career, like trying to step into the role of being a mentor, and how that's, how my experience has been with that. And I think, like Sonja said, I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome probably for early career positions to grow into a role of being a mentor, which seems like a very big title to carry. But starting a little bit on a smaller scale. So for example, in my case, we have like a research committee that helps we pair up one of us with a fellow, and we just kind of track their progress with their respective mentors, right? Just kind of as a third party objective viewer for, hey, are you meeting your milestones? How are things going? And so I was paired up with one of our fellows, and he was in a bit of a tough spot where his mentor basically moved to a different institution right at the beginning of his project. And so he was kind of just out floating and just trying to stay afloat, and really didn't have a lot of direction. And so I think just kind of meeting with him, even though I had nothing to do specifically with that project, we tried to kind of be really systematic about it, kind of overcome the inertia of like with uncertainty. And now, he's in his third year, and he actually did his pilot study. He got data. He's going to present it at a conference. He's got a manuscript going. And when I was kind of
Yes.
I was giving him props to be like, you did freaking amazing to
Yes.
get yourself through this. And then I would say he was like, I just wanted to like thank you, because it really wouldn't have been possible without you. And that was very much like my aw shucks moment.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think in a small scale, I think that that's been rewarding. That mentorship can be capital M, lowercase m, but you can still make an impact on any scale.
No, absolutely. So I'm going to hear from Roxana. What is something that was really meaningful to you?
Yeah, so I remember actually, I was not really on service, but I had a couple of sick patients on the floor, and I heard an RRT called on the floor where we usually admit the pulmonary hypertension patients. So electrically, I ran there. And before I got there, I have this fellow that since day one of fellowship, he decided that he wants to do pulmonary hypertension. So every moment that he has, he spends with me. He's just the second year. He didn't reach the third year when, the dedicated time for, for pulmonary hypertension training. And he was running that RRT, and he was doing exactly what I would have done in, the way he was very cool, calm, collected. Everything was under control. I was impressed. And he was saying and doing exactly what I would have done. The way he was integrating the nurses and the residents and the interns and, talking to the family, doing the right thing by the patient, obviously. And I was probably as proud as a mother, could be at that moment when, the kid does something exceptional. And that made me very, very proud. And I said I did something good. Like, it's my legacy at the end of the day, raising those new generations, helping them to develop and be themselves.
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And Sonja?
Um, are these my best experience as a mentor or as a mentee?
So actually either one, but if you can tell me about maybe an experience as a mentor that really made
Yes.
you know it was worth it.
Okay. So, maybe this is a small thing, but I try to adjust my mentorship style by whatever it is the person I'm mentoring needs. And I have a younger faculty member, and he is just good at everything. And so people ask him to do everything. And so when he had worked at another institution for a couple of years and just worked to death and really didn't get a lot accomplished. And I think he's going to be great, but he needs to learn to say no. And one thing I try to do as a mentor, if I can see mistakes I made myself early in my career, I try to prevent it from those people I'm mentoring. And one of my mistakes was saying yes to absolutely everything everyone asked me to do. And you end up treading water in the end. And so we made this rule with him that he can't say yes to anything until he asks me first.
Oh, that's
It
amazing.
sounds
Yeah.
very parental.
No.
It's not, because he actually, we were sitting in meeting and someone was asking him to do something that really was horrible. He really shouldn't do it. And he kind of looks at me and he just goes, I'm sorry. I can't take anything until I asked her to run first. And then we didn't do it. I get to be the bad guy. And then occasionally there's something really great, like he's working in the colleges with the med students. And we talked about it. That's going to take some time. Is it worth it for you? Is it worth it to say no to the other things you'll have to say no to? And it was. And so we get to talk through those things. And so it was a very proud moment when he says, I'm sorry, I can't do that for you.
That is so true. I mean, like, I think fellows' eyes will light up when you say, "Wait, I'm allowed to say no," and I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
you're allowed to
And
say
you won't think less of me.
no," and
Yes.
that's right.
on your own.
Let me be the bad guy.
So this was wonderful. I have learned so much from all of you. And what the words that I'm remembering when I'm thinking about this is trust, pause, emulate, impact, adapt, and be able to be proud of your accomplishments as a mentor. So with that, I'm going to thank you for being an incredible panel of experts, mentors, previous mentees, sharing your stories and your insights. And I want to thank everyone in the audience who joined us today. And stay tuned for our next meeting, which will be in March. And we'll keep mentoring, connecting, and moving forward. So have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thank you,
you.
Jane.
Thought.
Bye.